Hello, and welcome to the 10th and final episode of the ugh.podcast for this year. We're going to be taking a small break just for the month of December. We want to spend some time with their loved ones and friends and family for the holiday season. So we hope you're able to enjoy this final episode of December. We'll be back in January with more episodes, more topics, more content and whatnot. Thank you all for supporting us this whole year. We've been having just a great time doing this podcast, and we're very excited to do more episodes in the future. Today we are talking about breakups, how to handle breakups, the difference between a bump in the road and when to break up, our own experiences with breakups and how we're able to cope with them. So we just hope you are able to really get some insight and maybe some perspective on breakups. Also, make sure you follow us on all of our social media garbage. We are also streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. And if you're on YouTube listening to this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help support the channel. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram. We post all of our podcast questions where you guys can engage and be more engaged in our conversation. We've been having such a blast doing this. We will see you guys in the new year. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Happy holidays. You are loved and you are awesome. Take care, everyone.
All right, moving on to one of our next questions, and maybe our final question is, when to call it quits in a relationship, or is it just a bump?
I actually don't know how to answer this.
This is a heavy one.
This
bro.
one's
like
you
two have more.
me.
Yeah, me. Yo, I feel like
question
you
for
two
me.
have more experience, can speak more.
Ron, you want to go
Definitely.
first?
So for me, I've had two very, very serious relationships in my life. One was my high school sweetheart, and then one was just the one that I just recently got out of. And two of them, we broke up for very different reasons. I think for me, when you just call it quits, and I've always told this to my partners, and to be honest, in the second relationship, this is when I actually put it in practice. If you are genuinely unhappy and are constantly unhappy in the relationship, you should just leave. And that is, and like when you can't do anything to solve it, and you are genuinely unhappy because of the relationship, that's when it's time to call it quits. I think if you are just unhappy in that moment, and you're just unhappy with some of the things that's been going on in the relationship, obviously those are things that you can kind of work out. But when you have constantly come back to the same problems and constantly have come back to reoccurring boundaries that have been broken, and you guys are just constantly just being toxic and generally unhealthy for each other, that's when you call it quits. I think definitely you can work through specific things, and definitely if they are breaking a boundary and you fix it right away and they don't re-break that boundary, obviously they're not perfect, they're going to re-break that boundary in some different way or something like that. But if they're constantly doing it the same way to the same extent,
They're not putting any effort in trying to improve.
then that's when, to me, in my opinion, when you are unhappy because of that, that's when it's time to call it quits. I think the biggest thing when you really want to call it quits is when you are unhappy in the relationship, and when you do realize that there's not a lot that can be fixed, and maybe you guys need a very, very long extended period of time away from each other. There's nothing wrong with getting back together like later on, because honestly, like that's
It happens
in the future and it happens. But I think knowing that there are a multitude of problems and knowing that you both are unhappy in the relationship is when it's time to call it quits, in my opinion. And it's a really big thing. I think for me, in my experience, I've always been afraid to call it quits. I've always been like, no, I can sacrifice through this. I can keep going. And to be honest, those were like the toughest times in my life, where I've always like just been like, I still love them. I love them way too much to leave them. And to be honest, in my head, it's always been like, I'm afraid to break up with them.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to call it quits because I'm afraid of what my life might be like after. And more for this one, for my most recent one, I think I was definitely, when I started to see the toxic tendencies and I started to become really, really unhappy. There are times where I was like, I can't break up with this person because I love them too much, and I care about them too much, and I'm afraid to break up with them, and I'm afraid what might happen in the future. Like this, the end goal of every prospective romantic relationship is to get married, because that's the end game. Like, and I've always been like, I want to marry this person, but I'm like afraid of what our life might be like if I do end up marrying this person, and I'm afraid to break up with this person at the same time, because I'm afraid of what my immediate life after is going to be like. And for those people who are afraid of calling it quits with their toxic relationship, it gets better, but it's going to be fucking shitty for a while. It's definitely going to be very, very fucking shitty. And
pulling off a knife wound.
Yeah.
Gonna bleed for a while.
You're going to bleed for a long time. And it's fucked up when you have to call it quits, and it's not going to be super great. But I think
it's also not gonna feel right.
Yeah, 100%. Like you're going to feel uncomfortable for a very long time. You're going to question yourself whether you made the right decision or not. But at the end of the day, as time goes on, you did make the right decision, especially if it wasn't right for you. And there's nothing wrong with, in the future, when you guys are grown and you guys have matured later on, and you guys have worked out those things, and you guys do decide like, hey, this relationship, I'm down to give this relationship another try. There's nothing wrong with that. But also at the end of the day, you need to know like why that relationship went wrong, and
there's a reason why.
There's a reason.
There's a reason.
There could be multiple reasons. Maybe 69 reasons.
Yeah. Calling it quits is never going to feel right.
No.
It's never going to.
No.
Especially if it was like a long-term relationship.
And you're gonna feel like shit. You're gonna feel like shit, bro. You're gonna feel like the worst of the worst.
Yes. You're gonna feel like a fucking. You're going to feel like the antagonist of your fucking story. Yeah. Like no cap. Both of my relationships were really long. Like both of them lasted like almost 3+ years for both of them, and it never feels good to cut ties, and obviously like your life is going to change, but it's going to change for the better. And I think just calling it quits in general is, you just know when it really is time. Like especially when you get older, you do know when it's time to like be like,
can we fix this, or is this something that's out of our capacity?
And it's fucking damn, holy fuck,
damn son, where'd you find this?
Holy shit.
Wow. So for me, first of all, disclaimer, calling it quits versus a bump in the road, if your partner is like abusive or like mentally abusive, physically abusive, that's not a bump in the road.
No,
you need to get out.
Get out.
With support from your friends or whoever, like that's not a relationship that you can fix. And I know not a lot of people, not everyone can like recognize if it's abusive or not. So obviously that's hard. But if you are in that situation, then
and you're able to recognize it,
if you're able to recognize it, then
and like a small disclaimer too, because in our friend group we have encountered people like that. I don't want to dox anyone, but there was a period of time where a lot of us were going through COVID breakups, but also getting out of a lot of long-term relationships, and a lot of our friends got together and we were like, this person is very toxic for you. This person is not treating you well. This isn't a bump in the road. This isn't something that you can fix. And more often than not, don't be afraid to listen to your friends. Because especially if it's multiple friends,
there's a one common denominator and there's multiple people, like really just at that point, like, and it's very difficult because you're so emotionally in love with them and you're crazy about them, but like really like look into your heart and be like, is like, again, it's not your job to reparent people, but it's not your job to fix someone, right? So if they're hurting you, that is not your job.
It isn't.
And then, but like if it's like let's say like a normal relationship, like when do you call it quits versus a bump in the road? I guess I'm gonna echo a lot of what Ronald has already said, and how he said like if you're not happy, also if you're not like no longer being fulfilled in your relationship, like in a relationship you should always like identify the purpose, right? Like why are you in this relationship? Why are you with this person? Is it to like, do you see a long-term kind of, if it's a long-term relationship, do you see like marrying them in the future, having them in your life, like doing all that stuff?
Free discounts on gas.
and if you don't, then you shouldn't be in the relationship in the first place. But if you do, and like it's not working out right now, then it becomes more complicated, right? Because you could see someone in your life in the future, but if it's not working out right now, for example, if you guys have like communication problems or a lot of disagreements on crucial things, then it might just be a sign of things to come. Like you might envision yourself being with this person, having this and many kids, having like a house or whatever, but like the minor details, you might have all those things, but are you going to be happy? Are your kids going to see parents who are in love, who are supporting each other? Maybe not, right? So that word, like fulfilling, is key to me, because a lot of people, and I've kind of been guilty of this as well, are guilty of preserving a long-term relationship just for that title of like being in a long-term relationship.
Yeah. No,
even though they're not happy, 100%. Even though they're not fulfilled,
a healthy one is better than
like they don't see a purpose. Like, oh, I'm not really happy, but you know, I've been with this person for like 4 years, yay, you know.
Yeah,
but I'm not happy. But yeah, I'll save a lot of the stuff that I'm want to say in like a breakup episode. But I'll leave you guys with this thought. Like, you might really love the person that you're with, but it's important to separate the person that you're with, that person that you love, from the relationship that you guys are in.
Yes.
If you really love that person, but like, you know, your guys' relationship right now, how it's like configured and whatever, like how you guys are communicating, if that's not working for you, but you really love that person still, if you really love that person and this relationship, this kind of like entity, the relationship is making you both unhappy, then maybe it's time to like get rid of that relationship, even though you really love that person. And those are the situations where it's really gonna hurt and you're gonna be conflicted. Should I call it quits? It's not gonna feel right. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But again, separating the person from the relationship. The relationship is what's wrong. It's not the person that you love. It's the relationship that you don't love. And if you have to get rid of it, then that's what you have to do, right? Yeah. But again, I'll save a lot of that for a separate episode, because this topic requires a separate episode on its own. So.
But to add on to like Vince, I always tell this to people, especially when talking about past relationships. There's nothing wrong with the person. There's nothing wrong with who that person is, and I'm pretty sure like a lot of us, just because we're all close friends, including Lawrence, have all known or been friends with our past partners, like Vince and Jason both have either known or been friends with my past partners.
Yeah, we have a circle. So we have circled, right? And we've met.
And especially
Calgary's small.
Yeah, especially when you've been in a long-term relationship, that's just bound to happen.
Yeah.
But again, like what Vince said, there's a big difference between the person that you love and the relationship that you guys are in love with. And again, there's nothing wrong with that person. That person's by all means fantastic and is a person that's great. But obviously, like when that relationship doesn't benefit or fulfill you anymore, that's when you kind of need to throw it away, throw it in the dumpster, go next. You know what I mean? There's just that's probably like how breakups need to happen, is when the relationship doesn't make you happy or fulfill you, or it doesn't serve you any benefit anymore. And that's when you kind of need to be like, all right, this is not complementing my life anymore. If anything, it's dragging me down. I need to reevaluate our relationship, and I need to think about, is this fixable or is it not?
And forcing yourself to stay is also not good for the other person as well.
Yeah.
I remember I used to gaslight myself with this, where I was like, you know, if I'm going through this hard time with my partner, I'll go with someone else. I might as well just stay, you know, so we can work it out. We're working this together, basically, right? Where I feel like a lot of us, because I don't know if it's because of loneliness or just like caring about the person, because you can still care about the person while breaking up, right? It's not like you guys just I mean, some people get very petty and start hating each other, and it's a normal response, right?
Oh, of course.
But what did they say? What the fuck were they saying? Oh yeah, I used to gaslight myself, where I was like, yeah, like we'll get through it, like whatever. It's like, and like just the idea of like nothing is impossible, right? And a lot of people see breakups as a failure, right? But sometimes breakup is a solution. Sometimes, where especially if you feel like you've been going in a circle and you maybe this person hasn't changed, right? And like they're just not putting effort. Because going back to the very first point I put in, where it's like it takes two to tango, where for you two both want to be in a relationship, but do you two want to put effort into a relationship? And that includes putting effort in themselves, right? So if they have a toxic behavior or traumatic response to things, right? And it's really affecting your livelihood, whether that's like very abusive, whether that's like physically hurting you or just yelling at you or just like doing something that just doesn't, or they're very codependent on you maybe, or like, they're just basically anything that's like they haven't resolved yet and they're not willing to put in the effort to solve that. You have to remind yourself that it's not your job to do that, and they also need to put in that weight, right? So personally, what I feel like when it's time to call it quits is when you can tell whether you find yourself not wanting to put effort in that relationship, whatever. Like maybe you just don't want to, maybe you're not ready to be fixed. And like fix is a very like problematic word, but you know what I mean, right? Maybe you're not ready to be like to go through it yet, right? Or they are also not ready to like accept what's going on in their life, right? And it's very hard because like you care about this person and you want the best for them, but they're not ready to improve. And sometimes that's them, sometimes it's you. And we talked about this like and we're like, maybe we need to get over like the just idea of being happy with themselves and like being loneliness, but we know that's not going to happen in a relationship. So so we know it's like a time to take a break. A big thing for me, like when it comes to call it quits, is that when you notice that someone is not only do they not want to be in a relationship, but they're also not putting the effort, and that just can be in anything. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, I showed up to your house today. Like it can be a little of like fixing their own shit as well, getting their shit together, right? Because again, it is not your job to parent your partner, right? And like as much as you want them to want to improve, they're gonna have to want to improve. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And unfortunately, if they're like just like that's who I am, whatever the fuck, then like you can't accept that, and that's not okay, because that's affecting your livelihood and making it shitty for you, and then you hold resentment for your partner, and then it's just a cycle of pain and hurting each other, right? Because one person stopped, right? Whether that's you or the other person. And
I think just to add on to that, like one another kind of realization that you have if to call it quits versus whatever is the person might be doing all like the right things, right? Spending time with you, getting gifts for you, but if there's intent is what matters. Like if they're just going through the motions and just like they're not present.
They're not actually putting effort. They're not putting effort.
They're not putting like they're putting like the bare minimum. Just to make it seem like
the relationship is still worth salvaging or whatever.
And I've seen it in like myself and my past relationships and other people's relationship as well. Where if it's like you're just putting the bare minimum, like just to kind of like show that you're caring, but you're not really. Your mind is somewhere else. Right. So that's at that point. I just call it quits, because it's like it's like stagnating at that point. It's not like really going down, but it's like staying flat.
Yeah. And that's okay, because I feel like a lot of people see breakups as a failure, and like the whole like I need to have a long-term relationship because I want to be able to show like I'm committed, I'm emotionally intelligent, whatever. Like I don't know what's associated with, but it's like I will say this till I die and like where you're beep, but like a healthy relationship is better than a long-term one.
Yes, sir.
And that's a hill I'll be willing to die on.
I want to touch on one more question before we kind of leave off, because I know this is a super long podcast.
We're probably gonna split it to two.
We're gonna split it to two. But I think this one kind of covers after breaking up with someone and kind of getting into a new one. So we highlighted this one. What are your opinions in jumping into a new relationship after one that just recently ended? And I was actually watching a episode of How I Met Your Mother, and I think this question is also kind of valid. Is there a specific amount of time you need to wait after like getting out of a relationship.
I feel like you would know
to before you get into a new one. And it was it's kind of it was kind of funny. Like they're all like, 10,000 drinks, whatever gets you like what whatever amount of time gets you there first, or 1 week for every month that you were in a relationship or whatever.
Like I do like a math ratio. That's funny. I want to see if there's a formula. I know it's kind of dumb and pretty like virgin-y, but like, anyway, so go on.
I think I'll go first because I was the one who brought up the question. But I think you just kind of know.
You know when you're ready.
You know when you're ready. But there's like a couple questions you also need to ask yourself. Like for me personally, I definitely tried to jump the ship way too soon, and I tried to get into another relationship way too soon. I think you just kind of know, but you also need to ask yourself the question, like, have I grown and matured enough to the point where, like, have I grown enough and have I matured enough to make sure that this relationship doesn't end up like the last one?
Yeah.
And it doesn't start to reflect the negatives of the last one. And I think I think just asking yourself those questions and asking yourself like self-healing and self-growing questions, and making sure that you can kind of tick off all those boxes, just makes you know that you're ready for another relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much how to answer the question. There is no really like specific time frame, in my opinion, that you need to wait. I do think that you do need to take time, but there is no specific It was funny because me and Vince and our good friend Ruby were talking about breakups and stuff like that.
My favorite quote.
And we were like, we were like, oh, we're getting older and older. There's no specific time frame you need to wait to get into a new relationship. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to wait like 3 to 6 months before I get into another relationship. Like, if you're ready for a new relationship, you're ready. Yeah. But like, just make sure that you aren't jumping in too soon with the same mindset. And I think that's probably what it is, man. I
mean, every breakup and every situation is different, so that's why you can't give like a specific time frame, right? But what I will say is, like, if you're, again, intent matters. So if you're jumping into a new relationship just because, for example, you want to get revenge at your previous partner,
bouncer,
or you're fucking lonely, bro.
If you're filling a void, sometimes you figure that out once you're in the new relationship when it's too late, right? And then you're like, oh shit, like, I'm not in this relationship for the right reasons. And that's why it's important to take time to reflect. Why did the past relationship work? What do I need to work on? Actually work on those things. And then maybe, when you're ready, start looking.
And it's hard to stay patient, but
we can't answer when you'll be ready. Like, you have to answer that yourself. And maybe you do jump into the dating game or whatever too fast, and figure out, oh, maybe this isn't for me yet. Right. Yeah. So,
and then you get ghosted, block true combo.
Ghosted block true combo.
Ghosted the block true combo.
Sorry, I was about to add, or like you jump into a relationship with ex person who you don't have to worry
about. So my brother if you guys didn't hear, my brother, he says one of the bad things people jump into relationships is
they're not over
they're not over a specific person that they were in love with before the relationship even started. And that's just a shitty thing to do, and you're kind of a shitty person for doing that.
Like, I understand that you are like an emotional wreck, but when you are not emotional wreck, don't use someone else to fulfill your loneliness. That's pretty selfish. Like, I know you're like trying to find something to like appease the emotions you're feeling just to satisfy it, but fucking sit in your emotions, bro. Like, sit in your fucking emotions.
People more often than not, especially me being the most single out of the group, people more often than not will know your intent going into a relationship.
They can feel it.
And they can feel it. It's just, if you find yourself questioning a lot of the stuff and you find yourself like, oh, like, why is this not working out? Then I think you do need to take a step back and be like, yo, this is what's going on in your life and this is what's wrong. And I think For me personally, I had to do that to myself multiple times. I jumped in way too quick and I was like, yo, so I'm in love with this person. And then Vince is like, no, you're not. You're fucking dumbass. And like, there's nothing wrong with being a hopeless romantic, boys and girls, but there is something wrong with not taking time for yourself and figuring out what underlying problems you are still dealing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just what goes on like after you get out of a short-term or long-term relationship. Breakups are going to fuck you up. And if you are still fucked up from that past relationship, then you shouldn't be, like being emotionally vulnerable like that. We have like we know a person, we all generally know a person who has been fucked up like emotionally from breakup and is just thought central.
So yeah, I remember saying like I made a huge tweet longer about this because like I noticed that whether you dated someone who's just left a recent relationship or you've been that person, just as a recipe for fucking disaster because you're just 100%, bringing a bunch 100%. Of emotional baggage. I definitely think taking the time to reflect is super important because like just the whole rebound thing, because I've seen so many people that like jump from relationship to relationship like right away. Some of them have last, but I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. But typically, I notice that they want to break up to get into a new one. They break up, get to a new one. It's like, bro, you are not like taking time for yourself. You're not carving an identity. You're not carving an identity. You're carving an identity around someone else, which is very problematic. Now, this is something I kind of tweeted because I was like pretty passionate about this, and I'm just gonna read it word for word because I don't want to have to re-explain myself because it's kind of annoying to try to think about what I was trying to say. But I said, just saying, if you recently left a long-term relationship, maybe taking time to reflect before jumping into a new one might not be a bad idea. Bringing your emotional trauma and expectation that this new lover or partner is supposed to fill the void you feel is a lot on a person. It's easy to be like, it didn't work out, or they fucked me up, but why did it not work out? Is it only their fault? And if you're fucked up, did you unpack that trauma? Did you learn to set boundaries so that you are able to love without getting hurt again? Yeah, I'm just dating it. I'm just or was it? Yeah, I'm just taking it slow, or it's just casual dating, or we're just hanging out, or we're just friends. But you're forming a bunch of situational ships and wasting people's times. Or to simply put, you are lonely and want a monogamous relationship, but don't want to get hurt. Side note, there's nothing wrong with casual dating. But just know what the fuck you want. Stop wasting people's times. You can't preach you want commitment, but then have this expectation about dating with the people you're casually dating. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of people like, oh, maybe I don't want anything too serious right now. I just kind of just want like casual date, right? But like you're so used, especially if you're coming out of a long-term relationship, you're so used to being in a monogamous relationship, which is you two, that like you start to have these habits when you're with someone romantically, right? So, and it's very hard to distinguish the two, right? So if you want a casual date, that's cool. If you don't want to commit, like whatever, that's your business. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? But just taking that time to really reflect so that you don't bring that baggage onto someone else, because it's not someone's responsibility to be your therapist. It's not the responsibility your parent, not the responsibility to coddle you, not to fix you, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And so like, just taking time to reflect, and like me, even in high school, I had this golden rule where like if a girl recently broke up, no, absolutely not, off the table, right? And I had friends who are like, oh bro, they broke up, and they get super excited. I'm like, you're a fucking weirdo. Like, what is wrong with you? Like,
they just got out of a 2-year relationship. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, bro. Like, yo, bro, I sent in our DMs, and I'm like, dude, you're such a fucking dumbass. Like, do you actually think you're gonna like, this is gonna end up well? Like that's just a recipe for disaster. Like people don't just leave relationships like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm totally emotionally competent. Like no, like they're gonna have a lot of trauma. They're gonna be fucked up when they like exit like a long-term or even a short-term relationship too, right? So like I feel like people like when someone's like single, they're like, gotcha bitch, like you know what I mean? Like they're
finally single, yes.
Yeah, they're trying to get with the person who just recently left the relationship, where it's like, yo, like if you recently left the relationship, take some fucking time. There, of course, there's no answer, right? For me, I kind of use that kind of like rule where it's like the longer the relationship, the longer I usually wait. There's no golden rule, but like I just kind of feel it, and that includes myself. But like, if you see someone who's left the relationship, maybe like not because it's not your job to reparent them, but also at the same time, if you have also left a long-term or just a relationship in general, then also taking time for yourself so you're able to unpack that trauma, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know what is happening in your life. You don't know. Like when you're emotional, you can't really think about what went wrong, right? So you really need to take that time to calm yourself down and also maybe get to know yourself, right? Because a lot of issues I noticed that a lot of the COVID breakups was that a lot of people had a hard time carving their own identity. Like I know, and I don't want to dox anyone, but they were saying like, oh, I don't know who blank is. So they're referring to themselves. They said, like, for example, I was like, I didn't know who Jasen was, right? And I hear that a lot with like everyone I talked to who had a breakup. Literally everyone said that shit was like, I don't know who I am, right? Where you have no sense of identity. And it's not about codependence, it's about interdependence, right? Where you're able to support and love someone, but you have to be able to carve your own identity because you're still a person, you know? And this is something I always say to people where it's like, my identity is not Karen's boyfriend, and Karen's identity is not Jasen's girlfriend.
Yeah,
we are our own separate people who come together. Because there was a couple times where and a lot of people are kind of confused, right? Where I remember they invited Karen to an escape room, right? And like I just they didn't tell me about it, right? And like, why didn't Jasen come, right? And I was like, well, you didn't invite me, and you didn't tell Karen like, hey, bring Jasen, right? Yeah. And they were so confused. I'm like, well, this is why you have shitty relationships. But anyway, like they kind of expected us to be like fucking like by the hip, by the hip, and like just to be.
No, that was me 100% of the time.
Yeah, and just be like, you know, fucking like we're the same people. It's like no, like we have our own identities, right?
You need to have
and
your own identity.
I remember like Karen was also invited to your birthday party, and that shit happened again. It's like, don't you know when I invite you, you're supposed to bring Jasen, right? And like, you know, it's like first of all, you could just tell Karen like, hey, just bring Jasen, or just tell me like, hey, I'm having a party, come through. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, I'm not someone's pet, and Karen's not my pet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're our own people. So, and I notice, and this is not all the time, but I notice that's a very common theme with a lot of people, is that they have no sense of identity. They carve their whole identity around one person, and you know, when they lose that person, they try to carve their identity around another person. It's like, you are your own person, and taking that time to carve your identity, because I know that quote unquote, it's like, oh, you need to love yourself before you love someone else. Like that's not necessarily true. I would say it's more about trying to find who you are, so that you can bring someone to the relationship. You're not bringing nobody. You're bringing yourself to the relationship. You're not bringing like a corpse. You're bringing who you are, your baggage, your habits, your behaviors, your personality. You're bringing everything because you are solid in who you are, and you're bringing that to a relationship, as opposed to you just being a fucking leech on them, right? You are your own person. Yeah. A relationship is two people, not one person and a slave. It's two people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like just to add on to that thought about like you need to love yourself before you love someone else. I'm gonna change one word there that will kind of like reflect what we think of relationships. You need to know yourself before you love someone.
Yeah, yes, that's a better way of saying
yes, sir.
Because if you don't know yourself, then you're gonna be like, you're gonna look to be
validated by someone.
Yeah, validated by someone, and then look to have that one person be like one shared identity. And you know, it's like you're your own person, man. You need to. And I recently watched a show called On My Block.
Oh, bro, that show is so fucking good.
Oh my, that show is so good. And oh man, I don't want to spoil anything, but there was one relationship.
The last season or
last season.
Oh,
okay, never mind. But basically, like, what the situation
just
was.
Try your
like,
best. It's okay. I don't care. Just put spoiler warning.
For example, like if you got out of a relationship, right, and you know you're always thinking about that other person. You know, they'll be like, oh, like what are they doing? Blah blah blah. Well, first of all, if like once you get out of a relationship, it's not necessarily true that you can have a relationship. The first relationship you need to have or you need to cultivate before you get after you get out of a relationship is with yourself.
Yes, sir.
Have a relationship with yourself. And there was this one kind of funny quote from the show. It's like, oh, like who you dating now? It's like, oh yeah, I'm dating me. Right? So just like have a relationship with yourself, know yourself. And I gave advice to Ronald like a couple weeks ago, and he was like having growth problems.
Yeah, he's down bad, bro.
I'll be like, you know, just go on dates with yourself, man. Like, I know on the surface it kind of sounds dumb, like go get bubble tea with yourself, or like go get a coffee or take a walk by yourself. You'll learn about yourself because like you'll have like that internal dialogue, and you're like, oh, like I like this. Like I really enjoy this kind of like stuff, and you'll learn a lot about yourself by like doing that.
I went in-person retail therapy in like one of my breakups. Like I just went shopping and I kind of got a sense of style. Like I just had a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like I really like this. This is really fun,
Exactly,
right? I didn't know I really like, I don't know, having nicer clothes instead of just fucking, local merch clothing. You know what I mean?
Stop.
Yeah. And like it looks different, right, for everyone. Sometimes it's food, sometimes it's retail everywhere, sometimes it's just like going for a walk. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like that. That's
and a lot of people like ask the question like, oh, but how do I start loving myself? And that's a good way to do it. Like
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Spend more time with yourself, whether that be just in your bed, if you need time to mourn as well, but like if 100%. You enjoy like playing games, maybe do that. go out to eat by yourself, go shopping, like find like or
new hobbies,
give yourself like a makeover or whatever, like give yourself some, and it's gonna cost some money if you really want to like.
But you would spend money in a relationship, right?
Exactly.
So why don't you spend money on yourself?
Take that money and reinvest in somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it in Bitcoin.
Put it in Bitcoin.
I think, and I think we're starting to drift off into breakups, but I'm gonna go off anyways.
Just do it. Yeah.
But I think a very, very important thing that I've learned in my experience, because I'm kind of in that weird limbo where I have like broken up and gotten out of a long-term relationship, but have experienced being single, I think is a big thing that you do need to learn is especially loving yourself and knowing yourself, especially after coming out of such a codependent relationship. You kind of don't know what relationships you still have and what you are as a person. I never realized I would like Smash this much. I never realized that I would love like
context is the Smash Ultimate for the Switch.
I never realized that like I would start hanging out with different people that I wouldn't generally hang out with.
You made new friends too, yeah.
I made new friends. I started to like. It's not necessarily that I filled that void in my life. It's just I started to enrich my life with a lot more things that I needed beforehand that I thought she would like supply. And like, to be honest, like there's no comparison. Like I need these things now, and I do realize that this is what makes me now, and I know myself a lot better. And knowing yourself and loving yourself to that extent will help you look attractive to other people.
Yeah, confidence is
because you know what you bring to the table.
Exactly. Like people aren't going to be attracted,
and you won't settle for less.
No settling.
Exactly. No.
Never settle. Never settle ever. Sorry, go on.
No, like obviously you're going to have to pass the eye test. If people find you physically attractive, people will find you physically attractive.
Yeah,
but
no.
It's like it's that's just how it goes. Like that's the Tinder meta. That's the regular
meta.
Oh, we need to talk about the Tinder meta later. Not in this episode.
But you need to pass the eye test. But after that, you need to pass like what you bring to the table, and
it's more than just personality.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just personality.
It's not just personality and looks. It's like. Are you future compatible? Like, are you a bum?
Yeah.
You have your shit together.
You have your shit together.
And
do you have a driver's license?
We might need to edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. But a good point is because I like to say like we're basically, you heard this before. Where like being attractive is like playing dating in easy mode.
Yeah.
We're like basically being attractive gets you more suitors and like gets people to come. But what gets them to stay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is a common thing, right? Yes. So, because there's a big difference between trying to start a relationship, and not to sound like narcissistic as fuck, but I felt like I was pretty confident in starting relationships pretty easily. I just couldn't maintain them. Like, I just sucked ass, you know what I mean? And so, like, if you really want a healthy, long-term relationship, maybe learning what makes people stay, right? But also, like, kind of learning about how to respect yourself too. But sorry, go on.
Yeah. I was talking to this about my brother. And one of my friends from the States a while ago, I was like, and this was like before I started to love myself more and know myself. This was a couple months back after I broke up with someone, and I was like, after I broke up with her, and I was getting into dating game way too soon. I was like, man, I know I'm attractive, and like, don't get me wrong, I do know that I'm a handsome dude to some people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not.
I'd fuck you. It's fine.
Yeah, I fuck you guys too. And
that's another podcast episode.
And like, I know that we all are generally attractive dudes. But what confused me was like, man, I can't get any of these girls to like stay, or I can't impress any of these girls enough to be in a relationship with them. And I'm like, and then my brother was like, bro, you're fucking still traumatized from your last relationship. Like, there's a reason why these girls aren't staying.
They can feel it. They can sense it.
And then they can sense it. And and like now I'm like these poor girls. I'm like, damn, I fucked up any prospect with them going forward because I was fucking stupid, and I'm sorry if you are listening to this. You probably aren't, because I got ghosted / blocked through combo. But
sorry, go on. Do you need my water? Do you want to share?
No, I'm okay. But I think if you are starting to question yourself on those types of things, and you really do want to get into a romantic relationship, especially for my friends who are struggling like I was before, reevaluate yourself and really think about what makes you an attractive suitor and what will make them stay. Because at the end of the day, you can be as attractive as you want, but if you aren't compatible with them at all, then it won't work out. Don't listen to the horoscope people. Like my cousin, funny tangent, my cousin is she's a super big horoscope person. And so when I was like having girl problems, and when I was just like struggling
that's only a Scorpio would have said,
like struggling to find love, I was just like, man, why doesn't this girl like me? Like, why isn't she like talking to me like this? Like, why isn't she super about me? And she was like, oh, it's because she's an earth sign, and her rising moon is this and that.
Oh,
and I'm like, and I was so desperate at that point. I was like, yo, facts. Like, that's so true.
Yeah.
Like, but like thinking back on it, I'm like, I was a fucking dumbass. Like, there's that, like,
you just agreed to make him feel better.
Yeah. I was just like, yeah, but.
Yeah, you could probably tell we're pretty atheists.
But boys and girls, the moral of the story is, being a good person goes a long way, and being compatible with someone is not something that you can make happen. It's just something that is. Yeah.
I know a lot of
you can't force it.
Yeah, you can't force it.
You can't force
it. From personal experience, you can't force it.
I tried to force it. The girl I dated before, Karen, I ended up breaking up with her because I was really trying my hardest to like really be into her.
Yeah.
But I was just lonely. It was just like, and like, hopefully she doesn't watch this, but like I fucked up. I was the one who fucked up in the relationship. It wasn't had anything to do with her. There was nothing wrong with her or anything, but I was just basically just like lonely. And so I was like, yeah, sure, we'll just be together. It's fine. You know, don't think about it, right? Are we compatible? Do we have a good time together? And just go on the side note with the horoscope things. We'll talk about this later, because I mean, I feel like all of us have opinions about it. But like, because I know a lot of people might be touched, especially for those who are high into horoscopes. Like, you know, I understand that's like how some people kind of gain a sense of identity and get to know themselves more, because some people use religion, some people use science, some people use astrology. Yeah. But I feel like there's sometimes where you need to put your belief system aside and really just see, maybe it just wasn't meant to be, and you don't need an explanation, right? Whether that's through psychoanalysis, whether that's astrology, whether that's that religion, like, oh, God had another partner for me, or, you know, like, oh, the reason they were not compatible is because, you know, I'm Mexican and they hate me. I don't know, you know, just don't have to psychoanalyze it all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like, don't have to figure out a reason why, right? Just, you know, in your heart and your feeling, or your amygdala, whatever the fuck, but in your soul, whatever, to be religious, I guess, in a sense, that you can tell when it's not meant to be, right? So if you want to believe in astrology, cool, but just don't be scared to follow your gut and how you feel about something. Yeah, because sometimes, like, sure, there are some like horoscopes that have like certain people being more positive with romantic, maybe you might be compatible, but if you don't feel like it's right, listen to your body, listen to your brain, listen to your heart, because it is warning you about something. And just
for me, like listening to your heart, listening to your body, and
your pancreas,
to your brain is. I have two bit like I think this should go off the record, but I'll try to be as vague as possible. There's two instances for me. I think it was the first one was the first person I tried to date after I broke up with him, and then the second one is just like she was just red flag central, and it's just like all of my homies like.
But I'm a bull.
Yeah, like the first one, like I think I definitely scared away because I just wasn't ready and I didn't know what I was bringing to the table, and and I think I was just rushing into something to fill a void and fulfill something that I just had already lost, and that's my fault. I fucked up. Like I knew like now I know I fucked up. And I'm like, I'm sorry. My
bad.
my bad. And finally acknowledging that will, like, personally, if you are kind of going through my situation, will help you grow and will help you in your future prospects. Whereas like and to me it felt right, but to her she had the kind of the foresight to be like, yeah, this dude's stupid. Like this dude is not compatible with what I want going forward. And I was so touched. I was like, man, like why? And I was asking Vince like, why? And Vince is like, you're a fucking dumbass, bro. But the second one was just like, it's just red flag central, bro. All my friends were like, bro, she's toxic. Like, don't go for it.
Oh, bro, yeah.
And
I remember you were like,
yeah.
Yo, what do you think about this girl? And it's like, she's pretty, but and like, cause I think all of us knew her, right?
Yeah.
So we're just like, she's cool, she's pretty funny, like she's fun around me with, but like,
don't
just no.
Just listen to your brain.
Yeah, like
listen
to your brain and not your neck.
Listen to your head, not your head. Like really be object. Yeah, like.
And I was like, man, I was not listening to my head, bro. Like
I was
listening
wrong
to
head, bro.
head.
Listen to the fucking foreskin dick cheese.
Even I knew that she was wrong for me. I was like, yo, but I had that mentality where I was like, yo, if she fucks me up, she fucks me up, and like that's never a good mentality to go into with any relationship. Person.
Don't do it.
It's just don't do it, bro. Just don't do it, man. I think what's it called?
You have to edit this.
Yeah. On the record, we were talking about something off the record, but I think this is a good point to bring up for relationships. I do think that attractiveness is a very important part of the relationship. Attractiveness and sexual compatibility are very big, important parts of a romantic relationship, but that shouldn't be the end all be all, because at that point you're just casually dating that person. Yeah.
And if that's what you want, that's not a problem either. But like, again, know what you want.
Yeah, know what you want. Yeah, if you feel like you need to put a bag on her head, then you don't know what you want. Like, come on, man, you got to be honest with yourself.
No premarital
Abstinence, no premarital sex.
Instead of having sex, put a picture of Ziad in front of your girlfriend and have them choke you until you pass out.
Who can hang first?
She loves me. I know she loves me. I'm just playing. That would probably be cut off. But
so I guess like the last kind of topic for this kind of second episode, whatever the fuck, is closure, because I know we've been talking about breakups.
Yeah.
Is it a myth? Is it a fact?
I think, Jason, what kind of sparked this thought was like you said that sometimes it wasn't just meant to be, and like you don't need an explanation, right?
Mm-hmm.
In like one of my past relationships, I got like I got broken up like really badly, and I was like so bitter about it. Mm-hmm. And like because one of the things was like, like she just left without an explanation. I mean, I kind of asked, like she went like give it to me. She was like kind of like dodging it, like dodging me and stuff like that. So I got like really bitter about it, and I held the grudge for like the longest time. And I guess like the group of friends I was around at that time weren't helping either, because they kind of just like echoed.
They're like, you need closure, man.
Yeah.
No, and like they were saying like, oh yeah, she's such a bitch.
Whatever bad you said, they incited it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you held the pain in your heart, and they were like, sorry, go on.
And yeah, so like I was kind of looking for that closure, and the lack of closure kind of made me. And again, I said in before, right? Separate the person from the relationship. And I know like she ended the relationship in a bad way, but maybe, we were young and she didn't know how to do it another way. Mm-hmm. But
maybe she was just stupid.
She's fucking dumbass.
but after reflecting, like I realized that the relationship needed to end. It was just like a bad breakup, you know. And that maybe that wasn't on her, right? And I kind of like lumped the bad of the relationship on her, and I've kind of like held that grudge for such a long time. But yeah, so in short, like, no one owes you closure. Closure is kind of like,
it's hard for people to accept.
It's cherry on top.
It's a nice to have. It's not a must have, because a lot of people will feel like you should have seen the signs, or you should like have known that this was coming, right? And a lot of breakups, if it's especially if it's a toxic one, they just want to get the hell out of there, and they don't want to like associate themselves with you anymore. And
they need a clean break.
They need a clean break, and they don't want to like. Of course, like in mutual breakups and like ideal situations, you would kind of like talk it out first and then agree to split.
Yeah.
But if it's like one-sided and you get hard done by, then sometimes you just need to hold that and like and say like
in fact, you have no one's hand to shake. You can't even shake someone's hand.
Yeah, bro, you're just standing there.
Your opponent beats you and you're like, fuck. But
like sometimes it sucks. And you can't. I mean, take it personally all you want, but like, it's not going to change the fact that you did get broken up with, and you can hold grudges all you want, but it's just going to wait. You're just prolonging your healing process. Like if you hold resentment for such a long time, you're not able to heal, and sometimes you're just going to be like, damn, it happened.
Damn,
it happened.
It fucking sucks.
And it doesn't need a reason. I'm also on the side that closure is a myth, unless it's like, Stephen Blue's Clues, where you give that. But besides that, I saw this too, where it's like closure is a fact, and like it had the video. Anyway, sorry, but I think a lot of us, something that we all kind of realized was that closure is definitely a myth, because there are some breakups where I was like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Or what happened? Like, what could I have done to save it, right? And then there's also a part of me where it's like, you know what? I also need to move on and live in the present. I need to enjoy the friends I have around me, the people around me, the current relationship I have right now. Like, I need to be able to move on with my life and be able to actually just like live in the present, not in the past, not in the future, just where I'm at right now. And it's very hard because like creating closure for yourself, because you won't ever have that closure, just to be very transparent, right? But creating that whole like feeling of like, I don't know, completeness, or just like being over it, or just like getting over or forgiving maybe yourself or them or whatever that looks like that takes a lot of effort. It's very difficult, but just you need to, I think one thing that really does help in that healing process is just finally accepting to your brain, at least, that closure is not a myth, and eventually your heart or your soul, your amygdala, whatever, will finally be like, okay, I'm never gonna get this closure. I need to move on.
I think like for closure, like if you do have the capacity to talk to that person after, then by all means go for it. It's your choice. Whether you believe in closure or not. I definitely think that closure doesn't really help that much in my opinion, because I have asked for closure personally, and I've had people ask me for closure, and to be honest, I just don't think it helps, because you don't understand that person or the reason why they did it any more than you did before that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
and they don't need to explain it. So they're trying to get you to understand, but sometimes if your brain doesn't get it, you just don't get it.
Yeah. And going back to like arguments and stuff like that, or when you are being emotionally driven, you don't think properly. And if you don't take that time for yourself, if you are holding on to that resentment, if you're holding on to that anger, that frustration, you're never going to get over it, and you're never going to move on. I like every time like someone someone ghosted me, or if I ever was in a relationship and I got broken up with badly, I was always like, man, I fucking hate this person. Like I never want to see this person again. But finally realizing that you aren't entitled to closure, and our good friend Flores is so like he just spits facts all the time.
This man is so wise. I want to kiss him every fucking day. If you're watching this, I'm gonna kiss you next time I see you.
Like every time we talk about relationships and every time we talk about breakups, he's always like, these girls or these guys or you don't deserve to give, you aren't entitled to closure, and they aren't entitled to closure. And he's like, at the end of the and to me, at the end of the day, closure doesn't matter because you can't physically put yourself in their shoes and feel what they feel. And to be honest, at the end of the day, a clean break is probably what you need. And you just need to stop thinking about that person and start living in, like Jasen said, the present. Because the more and more you hang on to it, the more and more you're clinging on to those emotions that you're just afraid of letting go. Yeah. So yeah, I just think that like closure is like, especially after a lot of my more recent relationships and relationships that I experienced, call me cynical, call me fucking whatever, but I just think that closure is something that doesn't need to happen half the time.
I agree. Yeah.
It just gives you another opportunity to try and fix a relationship that doesn't need to be fixed.
It results in things like toxic things like breakups,
like on and off, and
on and off relationships, and I've personally experienced both of those, and it's just, it doesn't end up well for anyone. It comes off as something that it tries to rekindle an effort that was already lost with the breakup.
Because when you try to look for that closure, you're trying to look for a problem that you can solve.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't need that closure. Like, it's actually not important as you think it is. And I know you feel like you're confused, and especially because I know humans, we're scared of why. We're scared of not knowing, like, things why. That don't happen, why things don't work the way they work, right? But sometimes, like, being selectively naive, or just being naive in that sense, it's actually a lot more beneficial than you think it is. Yeah, because I know a lot of people are like constantly like, think about their ex, whatever. It's like, why the fuck did I just don't understand. It's like, and it's like, and of course I would never say this like, yo, you don't need to understand. Like, of course he was like, are you okay, whatever. But I know Flores did this pretty well, where he was like, I know it fucking sucks, it's probably the worst fucking feeling ever, but he kept just reaffirming like, you're not entitled to closure. And really just trying to learn how to accept that is a great way for the healing process of breakups.
Just learning to know that like, you have to hold that half the time.
Yeah, to hold that.
Like, either whether you're the dumpy or the dumper, like you just have to hold that. And like Jasen said, there's no one to shake your hand, bro.
And like sometimes you'll be asking yourself like, oh, like I was so in love with this person, and like, they said this and this to me and whatever the fuck. Well, sometimes shit happens.
Oh, bringing that to that.
Shit changes.
Bringing to that, like, shit changes. You were in a different situation when you promised those things, when you said those
exactly
things. And now you aren't obligated to uphold those things after you break up with that person, because it's,
especially because those are promises made in the relationship, so they were meant for the relationship. Like, again, separating the relationship and the relationship B, or the relationship or whatever. Those are made in the relationship. But now that the fact that you are broken up, again, we're going to say this multiple times, you don't owe anyone anything, right? At that point, it's like, especially because, like, and I know some couples who have broken up that have like leverage with each other, right? Where like they're still holding on, they still have strings attached, right? Where it's like, and it's selfish for you to hold control, and also it's selfish for them to hold control of you over whatever that is, right? So when it comes to clean break, it literally means anything. And like, I know some people are like, oh, we can still be friends, right? I was like, okay, whatever. But really, like, whether you believe that or not, like, you need to fucking be away from them. Like, you need a break, right? Because like you need time to heal, time to reflect by yourself. Learn how to self-regulate by yourself. Not like, because at that point, it's not you're doing it together. You're doing it alone. And that's hard for people to accept, but you have to do it alone.
Yeah.
I have nothing else.
Yeah, we all dried out.
I'm dried out.
Okay.
I need to go to the washroom.
I've been drinking so much. Yeah, I need to pee, but I was like, it really helped my focus. So I was like,
let's do our exit. So yeah,
you close it off.
Let us know what you guys think. I think for this episode, let us know what you guys think your breakup process is, or let us know what you think is more. What your thoughts on breaking up is, what your thoughts on closure are. Just let us know. And for the first episode, what would you focus on
what do you
general relationships?
Okay, we're closing out the first episode. I'm trying to do a whole fucking. Actually, no. Let's put it all together and we'll just show it twice. Anyway, for the first episode, let us know what you think are key factors in a healthy long-term relationship. Like, what do you think would benefit people, or what information you think will benefit people if they knew. So just let us know if there's anything that you disagree or agree. Just like, comment, subscribe. Please don't send us death threats.
We love all your relationships, and we hope that they're all healthy.
And we hope they're successful and healthy and positive. Have a great
have a great
morning,
evening,
weekday, 8th day of the week. You know,
Eighth day of the week.
Your Flores in the bathroom at work, bro.
Flores for your life. Flores, are you watching this? We love you, bro. Thank you for like helping all of us become smarter, more intelligent men.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This man's actually fucking Jesus, but for dating.
For dating, bro.
Okay. All right. Peace.
All right.
Peace, y'all.
See you guys. See you guys next time.
Holy fuck.